I got early access to the new Skywarden Monkey, and it is so good. I'm going to cover the 3 strats I use to show off all its upgrades and explain why he's so strong. Up first, we have the most obvious combo, pairing the path that deals extra damage to frozen bloons with Silas and a bunch of ice monkeys. If you want, you can start the game with 2 or 3 Skywardens, as they only cost $5 more than a dart monkey, but they're not that strong without more upgrades, so don't feel rushed to get them down now. Here, I went with a sub and dart before making my way to Silas. Like most strats, the early game isn't important, just get through the first few rounds however possible and work your way towards a hero. I got Silas in round 13 and followed him up with 3 Skywardens, all 002s. This makes them deal more damage and have more pierce versus frozen bloons, which is super helpful when running Silas. He sometimes makes the start harder as many early game towers lack frozen popping power, but here he actually makes our Skywardens better, and getting 3 of them is kind of important, but more on that later. From here, I got a 013 cryo cannon, which pairs well with Silas as he gets ice fragments with each shot and he freezes bloons for the wardens. The only thing we're lacking is camo detection. Currently, only Silas can see camos, but the Skywardens get camo detection with the top crosspath, and the sub can handle them if we get advanced intel or submergence support. I opted for the latter to take care of camos forever and followed up the sub with another cryo cannon. Already, our popping power is pretty crazy, with us popping the ceramics on 38 easily, but we need to prepare for the round 40 Moab, so I upgraded an ice monkey to an icicles. This makes it attack faster and deals 10 damage per shot to blimps. My goal was to get a second one for round 40, but we were a bit short on cash, so I made one of our Skywardens a 003 cold chain. This gives it a 3-stage attack. The first time he hits a bloon, he slows it, the second time causes it to slow nearby bloons, and the third produces freezing shrapnel from the target. And it's not too hard to stack these on slow moving targets like the Moab. Combine this with the fact that cold chains also produce ice blast when Silas activates Frozen Cascade, and the Moab broke open pretty quick, and the ceramics didn't last much longer afterwards. Now, the 40s give tons of money, and as much as I wanted to upgrade our Skywardens, that wasn't the play yet. I started with a discount village and upgraded the sub to a reactor. This laid the groundwork to get 3 more ice monkeys, 2 cryo cannons, and a 410 embrittlement. The reason I prioritize these is each tier 3 ice monkey gives Silas extra XP, and they give us a ton of extra popping power. Once we were in the 50s though, it was time to upgrade all the cryo cannons to icicles for more blimp damage. I ended up with 5 icicles in total and bought a second embrittlement on the left to even things out. It wasn't just strong against blimps though. This setup dumpstered round 63. I mean, those ceramics didn't make it down the waterfall, but this is where the fun begins. I upgraded all our Skywardens to 024 frozen verdicts. Whenever they destroy frozen bloons, they leave volatile ice explosive remains on the track that slow bloons and explode in icy burst whenever they expire. Not to mention that all of their 3-stage attacks work together to keep the 3rd stage debuff active. So whatever they attack will be slowed, slow those around it, and produce ice shrapnel when hit. And basically every bloon they attack will be frozen, causing ice explosions constantly. Nothing stood a chance. The ceramic rushes of 78 didn't even make it to the reactor, and the fortified BFBs of 79 didn't do much better. This is an incredibly well-rounded setup, and we could afford the Winter's Mercy at the end of the round. This tier 5 Skywarden deals more damage when frozen bloons are around, gets bonus damage from shatter bloons, and frozen Moabs burst in quote ruinous explosions. As is, this could probably pop through around 99, but there's a lot of money left to spend this run, preferably on tier 5 ice monkeys since Silas makes them cheaper. I started with a super brittle and followed it up with an absolute 0. I figured the ability would make our Winter's Mercies deal way more damage, it boosts the attack speed of all our icicles, and the super brittle will help take down ZOMGs. This was incredible. I mean, round 98 didn't get down the right waterfall. That's ridiculous. And we had abilities left to use. Honestly, the only thing this setup is missing is single target damage. The bad would likely float right through as none of our towers excel against it, so I picked up a first strike in range of the Energizer and used its ability twice on round 100. The second it broke open, our ice monkeys popped the insides, making for a super easy win. Next, we have the middle path, which is all about stuns, lightning, and plasma projectiles. The first stage of the 3-part attack makes the affected bloons attract energy and plasma attacks, and what tower shoots plenty of those? The Sentry Champion. Just like last strat, you can start out however you want, just get to Open as fast as you can. He buffs Skywardens just as much as he buffs Druids, so we have another great synergy here. To get through the early game, I paired a double shot ninja with a 302 Sprockets Engineer. These sentries destroy the early game, especially with Pin, and the extra pierce will go a long way later on once we have Seeking Projectiles, and the ninja will handle most of the camos. I follow this up with 3 Galvanic Conduit Skywardens. The first I made a 230 to help out with camos, and the other 2 I made 032s for extra pierce, and they can do more to the Frozen Bloons our Sentry Expert will make later on. Honestly, I don't think the crosspathing here matters too much, I just prefer the extra pierce for the late game. But this 3-stage attack is way different than the cold path. We know the first stage makes the Bloons attract plasma and energy projectiles, but the second makes them produce chain lightning when hit by sharper shadow type attacks, and the third hits the target with a high damage stun. If you get 3 of these for round 40, the Moab doesn't stand a chance. It'll barely move, and all the ceramics inside keep the stage 3 debuff on them. And the chain lightning will pop them in a couple frames thanks to our ninja and engineer dealing sharp type damage. From here, I upgraded the engineer to a sentry expert and buffed everything with a 220 village. Oben already gives Skywardens camo detection at level 8, but they can't pop purples with the middle path, so we would have been relying on the ninja for camo purples. And I figured we should give the engineer camo detection since he'll be our first tier 5 monkey this run. Anyway, I upgraded the 3 conduits to Thunder's Decrees, who can now stun up to ZOMGs, and they get an ability that electrically charges nearby monkeys, granting them faster ricocheting projectiles. I probably didn't need to upgrade them yet, but it's such a cheap upgrade, coming in at $2,160 on chimps. And I buffed them with a Berserker Brew Alchemist. Now it's time to save up for the Sentry Champion. For the most part, the rounds were a joke. The stuns would make even BFBs a breeze, and the Sentry Expert would take out the normal Bloons. Only round 63 made it far, but I went out of my way to not use a wall of trees, and the Sentry Expert hadn't placed all his crushing sentries yet. They do extra damage to ceramics and have 33 pierce, which goes a long way when we activate Thunder Charge for the ricocheting projectiles. Honestly, you could buy tons of support for this round, as I got the Sentry Champion in round 70, way before we actually needed it. So a Relentless Glue or Ice Monkey could make the 60s even easier. And I followed this up with a Stormwrath Archon, the middle path's tier 5 upgrade. Its arrows serve as conduits that lash out when nearby Bloons are struck by energy or plasma attacks, and its ability weaves a lethal web of lightning between all conduits, obliterating anything caught in the crossfire. Needless to say, pairing this with a Sentry Champion is the way to go. I instantly upgraded the Elk to a stronger stim to give it more attack speed, and got a Relentless Glue to 1. Stun the Bloons, and 2. Funnel the sentries closer to the top track, as the Sentry Champion will only place them in open spaces. This destroyed the rounds, even popping ZOMGs before they got to Oben, with the best part easily being the plasma balls swirling around the magnetized balloons. This was so fun to watch, and there was still plenty of money to go around. So I upgraded the village to a 240 Call to Arms, a super common tower to pair with the Sentry Champion, as the ability buffs the attack speed and pierce of the sentries, on top of making more sentries spawn thanks to the increased attack speed. Even rounds like 96 and 98 were simple, as I just used Thunder Charge over and over since we have 100% uptime with 3 of them, and our sentries would use all of their pierce thanks to the ricocheting effect. It was absurd. Once again, the only thing we were slightly low on was single target damage, but we still easily popped the bed and had over 27k to work with. A couple Spike Storms, a Blazing Sun, or Attack Zone would have shredded it. And finally, we have the top and middle path combo, which might be the best strat of the video. Unlike the other two, I actually started with 3 Skywardens and saved straight up for Oben. You don't have to do it this way, but we'll be placing 6 of them, so I wanted to mark their spots early. After getting Oben down, I placed the other 3 Wardens. It was weird placing a bunch of base monkeys, but their upgrades don't do much until tier 3, so I figured we could wait until we got a discount village. For now, I got an early game carry in a 301 Abyss Dweller. This will take care of all the camos and pair super well with our Wardens. Not for its pierce buff though. No, we're actually looking at its damage type. You see, this guy is the king of shatter damage, as his tridents and tentacles do that. And if you recall, conduit wardens produce chain lightning when their targets are hit by shatter type attacks. Because of this, we followed the Dweller with 3 galvanic conduits, all crosspath as 230s for camo detection, and they provide a range buff to everything inside their radius, stacking up to 5 times. In the middle of this, I purchased a discount village, but you don't have to rush it as hard as I did. On a harder map, you'll likely have to wait until after 2 or 3 conduits to make sure you don't leak. Afterwards, I picked up jungle drums for the attack speed bonus and upgraded our other 3 Skywardens to 301 Wind Weavers, the only tier 3 we haven't seen yet. Their 3-stage attack causes balloons to be blown back periodically, then produces extra arrows from the target, and finally pulls other balloons backwards to the target. And I crosspad them with Shatterpoint for the extra pierce, and I didn't want them to lose their ability to pop purples by making them 3/2/0s, as that had changed their damage type away from sharp to energy. Finally, we rounded out our setup by picking up an Embrittlement and upgrading the Mermonkey to an Abyssal Warrior, giving him extra damage, a slow to blooms and balloons, and all of our other monkeys even more pierce. Now, there were a few routes I could go, but I picked up a Thunder's Decree for the ability since it's so cheap and could get us out of a jam, and I followed it up by upgrading the bottom 3 Wardens to Gale Sages. This disables the camo property in their radii and lets them attack in quick volleys instead of individual shots. At this point, our stalling was incredible. The 3 middle path Wardens would stun blimps until they broke open, and the 3 top path ones would blow back balloons until they were no more. And they all had a ton of range thanks to the 5 stacks of aerial attunement. It made the save up for the final tier 5 upgrade, Farwind Seer, super easy. It does only cost 20 grand, but even rounds 63 and 64 were absolutely free without any abilities, and the Farwind Seer dismantled the balloons. The description doesn't say much, but it seems like it deals more damage the further the arrows travel before hitting the balloons. And it has a cool mechanic where its projectiles slow down near the end of their flight path, letting them stay around longer and the balloons run into them. Even rainbows were getting one shot, and we coasted through round 81, where I picked up the other 2 Thunder's Decrees and a Stormwrath Archon. We don't have nearly as much energy or plasma shots as last run, but pairing these 2 together did wonders. They were shredding ZOMGs at the entrance, letting us pick what we wanted to upgrade. I went for the simple Lord of the Abyss for an even larger pierce bonus, and he can hit way more balloons with shatter damage with extra attack speed and pierce for his tridents and tentacles. That being said, his tentacles didn't get involved much. The entire 90s stalled out at the start of his range except round 99. The reinforced DDTs got to the Embrittlement, but there was nothing to worry about. I had over 30k in the bank and not much to spend it on. I did play around a bit with a bounty hunter to see if giving the Farwind Seer extra range would be beneficial, but I didn't notice that much of a difference. I bet on certain challenges or different maps it could make the difference, but not here. And like the other Skywarden strats, the bad did make it further than everything else, though this strat performed better than the others. We popped it with plenty of track left and easily could have bought another tower and or upgrade to help us out. But that was 3 different ways to use the new Skywarden Monkey that comes out soon. All 3 of these seem like incredibly strong strats, with 1 and 3 actually being OP. So this is a very good monkey that you guys should try out.